Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're really addressing an incredibly important topic, especially in what we're seeing out there today. So, what is it about digital citizenship that got you interested in it and your passion around it?
So my passion around it actually goes back more than a couple of decades. I taught in Los Angeles Unified School District. Most of my classroom teaching career was in a technology academy and a technology lab environment. And so, the whole idea around digital citizenship is to begin the process of recognizing that we essentially walk two different lines. We walk the line of our physical spaces, but then also our digital spaces, and to recognize that some of the ways in which we communicate, the behaviors that we engage in, the interactions that we have in a physical space can be both similar, but then also very different in a digital space. So for me, it goes all the way back to everything from teaching students, like when you're writing an email, you want to make sure that something can't be, as I used to say, lost in translation. Like, do the words match the intent and the tone you want the message to be delivered? And it's a lot easier for us to decipher that in person because we have the nonverbal components of our body language. But when it's in writing or in the context, for example, of students collaborating, you have to be mindful of that. So for me, it goes way, 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 way back.
One of the things that you talk about is equity, and here at LACOE, that's an incredibly important message. How does that interplay with the topic of digital citizenship?
Well, I think first it's important to define equity. So for me, I define it in the context of simply access and opportunity. So when it comes to digital citizenship, how are we ensuring that our learners, and really even adults in general, how do we have access for the opportunity to engage in meaningful interactions in a digital space, whether it be synchronous, asynchronous, through video, or not? And so for me, the equity piece is, especially with today's learners, how often are we ensuring and or designing opportunities for students to be able to access others, whether it be in their classroom, other experts, for example. In other words, I guess the best way I can describe it is how do we dismantle geographical barriers and physical barriers so that our learners have access and opportunity to engage with others. And that kind of leads into the whole idea around becoming a digital citizen, because the more folks you interact with, and then the different types of ways you interact with them, the more you build, what I always say is you build both a digital literate and a digital communicative skill set.
So such an important thing to do, especially today. You are a well-known speaker on digital citizenship, and you share a lot of different information and advice and guidance. From that, what are the top three things that you would like people to take away?
I think the importance around how we define citizenship. One of the things that I encourage districts to do is let's say they have a responsible use or digital use policy. Who is that policy centered around? Is it culturally affirming or culturally destructive? And is it aligned with learners utilizing what's in their invisible cultural knapsack as an asset for building meaningful connections? So that's number one. Number two, for today especially, for me it would be around understanding and embracing emerging technologies. And then three, how does artificial intelligence fit within, let's say, our digital citizenship ecosystem? It reminds me of, which I will bring this up in the keynote, it reminds me of the days when it was, don't let the kids use Google, because first, there were several things. Don't let the kids use Google because they're going to simply Google the answers. And my response was always, then we should ask different questions. Then it became, well, they're just going to Google stuff and there's all this information and you can put anything on the internet. Right, that's where information literacy comes in. Then it became, well, they got this information and, not everything you can put on the internet is reliable or valuable or even true. And I said, okay, well, now that's where media literacy comes in. Many of those same principles apply when it comes to our use of artificial intelligence. And so I think at this point, we're long overdue to begin having meaningful dialogue around what does digital citizenship as an overarching thematic approach look like within the context of emerging technologies. In the case right now would be artificial intelligence.
Well, and you just made me think, I mean, because I've been involved with digital citizenship for years, and I've watched it evolve. And so you bring up such a good point around the definition of it, and the fact that it is always changing. And now we have AI. What is your advice to teachers? How do they stay on top of it? How do they learn about it? How do they help their students?
Well, one of the ways to learn about it is come to an event like this.
Right.
There's the plug. But I think one is to accept the fact that it is probably futile to believe that you can stay on top of it. But what you can do is stay informed about it and adopt mechanisms into your day-to-day practices of which it can be useful. And then, of course, empower learners to be able to do the same. It's unrealistic to approach artificial intelligence as if it is something that you can essentially keep under the covers, and I'm going to continue to do these things and I'll just push it down the line and maybe eventually we'll get to it. It's already here. Students are already using it. Ideally, adults are already using it. Again, it's another emerging technology that, rather than be fearful of it, we should be leaning into it, learning more about it, identifying the good uses, but also identifying the many caveats and red flags that exist within AI, especially within the data sets, and do it in ways that allow us to do many of the things that we already do, but with a higher degree of efficiency and a higher degree of impact.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and
Thank
sharing
you.
these important messages with our education community.
Right on, thank you.